Hey, we are back, excited to share some updates with our Skoolie conversion that we're making a full-time home, but also a dinner party bus. There's a lot going on, but we've done a lot. So Emily, let's hear what we've done since our last video.
Alrighty.
We installed all of our windows, including a custom-built pull-out window. We laid our subfloor, framed the bus, put in sound deadening material, and wired the bus. We almost lost all of our sanity when we installed this new door. We cut and rerouted the exhaust pipe to save space underneath the bus. We installed new hardware on the roof to mount our solar panels and rooftop deck. And of course, since we need access to that rooftop deck, we installed a hatch that had been made for boats. We replaced the incandescent lights on the bus with LEDs, installed several ports for water intake, shore power, and external water supply. We refinished and reinstalled our mirror hardware, upcycled a driver's chair found in a junkyard, fixed a dent from a car crashing into the bus, and so much more.
Okay, so that's what we've been up to, and currently we're at the stage of spray foaming the bus. So this is a big project of ours. There's no going back after this. And we wanted to talk you through the thought process of that and then how it was executed. When deciding whether to spray foam the bus ourselves or hire this job out, what we had learned was really surprising. We have about 1,900 board feet to cover in this job, and board feet is the standard metric that spray foam installers will use to understand how much material they need to bring and fill within the project. So 1,900 board feet, and this includes the bus ceiling, the walls, and underneath the chassis. If you look at these DIY spray foam kits, they typically have 500 to 600 board feet coverage per kit. Now, each kit costs about $800. So with some simple math, we would need 4 kits to do our job, and that costs about $3,200. And that's just the material alone. What we discovered when we were talking to about a dozen contractors throughout this process is that it's sort of a buyer's market right now. And we did this in the summer of 2025. It may very well change, but at the time of our job, there was a lot of extra product out there being sold by the spray foam manufacturers. So it enabled the contractors to offer some really competitive prices. We saw quotes anywhere from $4,500 all the way down to $2,000. And what we ultimately settled with was a spray foam contractor who would come in, spray, and trim all of the bus for $2,200. For us, the decision was very clear since the pricing was in favor of hiring a professional. However, if the situation were to flip and it was marginally cheaper to do it ourselves, I still think there are some factors to consider. Now, by no means am I a professional, but I did some research leading into this project and have some takeaways to share. It may not always be the case, but I believe the quality of foam professionals use is a step up from consumer kits. Closed-cell foam from professionals most likely weighs about 2 pounds per cubic foot, and I'd suggest confirming this number with the contractor you work with. Consumer kits, on the other hand, tend to be about 1.75 pounds per cubic foot. So professional grade is denser, it's mixed more thoroughly with their equipment, and it sets in really evenly. There's actually a whole science behind how the two components of spray foam mix, and not having to worry about that is a huge relief. Additionally, spraying is a bit of an art form, and these contractors have hundreds, if not thousands, of hours of practice and knowledge to work from. We saw our contractor make adjustments to his spray gun several times, delicately spray areas that I thought were unreachable, and just really be methodical on how he was spraying.
To prep for spray foam, we first ran all the electrical and secured each wire to the metal walls so that nothing stuck out. Then we masked off the windows, the strapping, junction boxes, protruding wires, the floor, basically any surface we didn't want covered in foam. One big lesson is that spray foam expands a lot more than you expect, so if there are cracks or holes, assume the foam will find its way in. We also wiped down every surface where the foam would adhere. For the underside of the chassis, we laid tarps to protect the driveway, and we carefully avoided mechanical and electrical components. Like painting, the final result depends heavily on prep. Even after a full week of masking and cleaning, we were still up until 2 a.m. the night before the contractors arrived, making sure that everything was ready.
One of the most important parts of this job was being on site with the sprayers, helping them through the unique spaces of the bus. Luckily, I had a pair of paint coveralls, as last year I was Walter White for Halloween, so these came in handy again, and I was able to be with them step by step as they sprayed the bus. A few takeaways from the actual job is it's much easier to cut excess foam a few seconds after spraying rather than a few minutes after it's been sprayed. We chose to overspray rather than risk any thin spots, so while the contractors cleaned up a lot of that overspray, Emily and I had to go back after the job and, clean out some patches that were harder to find. For the underside of the bus, we sprayed about 2 inches of closed cell foam between the floor ribs, starting behind the driver's seat all the way to the back of the bus. Now, 2 inches is sort of a sweet spot where insulation is highly effective without a huge cost increase. So here's a little chart to demonstrate that. This was especially important because unlike a house with only exposed walls and a roof, a bus has all 4 sides exposed to the elements, and on top of that, each side is made of metal, which conducts heat and coldness extremely fast. Here's a chart that describes the recommended R value structures should have in their respective climate zone. Now specifically, I'm looking at the floor rating here. Now with the 2 inches of foam board underneath our subfloor, we get an R value of 10. And the 2 inches that we added of spray foam adds another R value of 14. So now we have a ballpark value of 24, which is a lot closer to some of these recommended floor rated R values. Hope you liked that video about spray foam. If you have any questions or comments, let us know. Join us for the next video where we're doing some interior walls and we're gonna hang some finished materials. So let's get after it.